Okay, good morning, everyone, and welcome to all the familiar faces and all the new people. I'm just going through the list of people here that's joining us today. So it's so nice to see you all again, and you'll see that today is something that, yes, good morning. Today we have a webinar on a topic that we haven't had before, and it's so important and it's such an interesting topic because everyone always talks about leadership, management. What does that actually mean? What does it look like? Um, what does it look like in practical terms? So I'm going to share my screen. I see people are still logging in. That's fine. Let's just do that. And so, Lynn, you can tell me if the presentation, if you can't see it or if it looks funny. But I'm gonna, as I open up the presentation. So if anything looks funny, just interrupt me, just let me know. Okay, but so once again, welcome everyone. So today we are going to look at the introduction to junior, middle and senior management training. Now, we are in the process of developing the part one for all three categories have been developed. But we're in the process of developing part two and a part three so that it is very intense, very comprehensive, and it covers everything. So it's not just the normal boring topic. We are in the process of really making it a comprehensive training program. At the end, I will show you the link where you can go to access all of the training programs. So if you want to see anything, you are welcome to contact us, or you just go to the link and you can choose whatever you want to do. Your employees will get a certificate when they're finished, and all the other trainings are also on there. The stress management, the emotional intelligence, all of them are on there. And there's even additional training courses that I don't offer, like things that's more towards labor and payroll and that type of thing. So there's really a combination of a lot of things. Okay, but let's get started. So it's also only going to be a half an hour today because I just want to warm you up to it. But I've got something very interesting that I developed for you. Okay, so let's just go on to the next page. So you all know me by now. I'm Cecilia Denton. I'm an industrial psychologist. I'm the owner of PTES Consulting. We are psychometric assessments specialists, and included in today's presentation is the introduction to junior, middle, and senior management training. Okay, but let's just start with very interesting case studies, interesting examples, because what are we talking about when we talk about leadership? Leadership is a word that gets thrown around quite a lot. But what does it actually mean? So let's look at real things that's happened in our world. Right, so here you'll see a few company names that you may recognize. So there's BP Oil, you see there's Kodak, there's Enron, there's Uber. I'm at the top there. I'm not in the category. The thing just made the page look pretty with me in there as well. But let's look at the real world example. Let's start with Kodak. So you all remember Kodak, the little camera thing. Everyone will remember and will be able to relate to the name Kodak. So with Kodak, and you'll see I put a little picture here that says changes ahead. And it was literally one of the problems that they had was not being open and ready for change, as simple as that. So the leadership failed to act on the rise of digital photography despite having early access to the technology. So how many of us do that? We have our little businesses. We don't keep abreast of what's going on, what's changing. And the technology in today's world, it's just moving at a massive pace. I can put myself in there where, I see how things change with AI and whatever. And I'm like, I don't want to, now that thing wants to write my email for me. I know I'm Generation X. I just want to have my diary with me. and I don't want everything computerized, but stay abreast of the things that's changing. How can you actually tap into that? So with Kodak, the resistance to change and lack of strategic vision caused the company to lose market dominance and eventually declare bankruptcy. That's hectic. They went from being on top of the world to bankruptcy. And it's, you can see in this case, this is not an ethical issue. This was just being open to the change, being open to ideas, being flexible, being open. You can't believe that that one particular thing is a big thing. And especially, I hate saying the older generations. I think I'm only referring to myself here. There are some things that I still like to be done manually. I like very much the human interaction and that. But keep an eye on what things will work for your organization. Keep an eye on the changing things that's happening. Because look at what happened to Kodak. Okay, then my second example for you is BP Oil. Now, yes?
See, at the bottom of your screen, there's a little tab that says stop sharing, and there's a hide button next to that.
Let me click
Can
hide.
you please click on the hide button because it blocks certain content?
Yes, can you now can you see it's gone?
Yes, thank you.
Okay, fantastic. Don't worry, it was bothering me as well. But once again, I wasn't open to the technology. I can actually click on it and it will go away. Anyway, all right, so BP Oil, you will see that I have a photo of the Titanic on the left. And it's not a mistake. I actually put it there on purpose. So BP Oil, when we refer to this particular example, there was the BP Deepwater Horizon oil spill in 2010. It was a massive environmental disaster that happened in the beginning of 2010 off the coast of the United States in the Gulf of Mexico. So why did this happen? Inadequate leadership in risk management and safety oversight contributed to one of the largest environmental disasters in history. Decisions prioritizing cost and speed over safety had catastrophic consequences for the company. So can you see why I put the photo of the Titanic there? Remember, even in those years, the captain of the ship was asked to go faster, make an impact, make the headlines for the newspaper the next morning, and then they hit the iceberg. This is so similar. It just made me think of that. And now you will always also remember it because I've got the picture of the Titanic here. So in April 2016, BP agreed to pay $20 billion in fines, the largest environmental damage settlement in the United States history. That's massive. That is absolutely massive. So this almost makes me think of what's going on with Eskom and the billions that went missing there. That just popped into my head just now. But anyway, I just had to put a picture here for you. The picture will show you how devastating it was. This is literally pictures of that event. And this is poor leadership wanting to impress, wanting to save money in spite of the cost of lives. And I'm talking about animal lives here as well. And just look at how this impacted the environment. Absolutely horrendous. All right, and then I want to jump to Enron. So I put a big picture here of fraud on the left because this had a lot to do with fraudulent behavior. So now we're talking a little bit more about ethical behavior and accountability. So for those of you who don't know the Enron story, don't worry. I've got some pictures for you of the perpetrators. So, but let's just read about the leadership. So leadership engaged in unethical practices, fostering a culture of deception and short-term profit seeking. Lack of ethical oversight and accountability led to one of the largest corporate collapses in history, affecting thousands of employees and investors. So Enron was a US energy company that collapsed in 2001 due to massive accounting fraud, which hit billions in debt and led to the largest bankruptcy in US history at that time. I think that was the cause for the massive economic decline that happened after that, and then the actual fall of it in 2008. But anyway, the company's downfall resulted in thousands of job losses and pension savings for employees and the jailing of several executives, and it led to the creation of new laws and an FBI investigation. That is just purely greed, just greed. Just hiding millions and taking pension funds. But here is the picture of the leadership that they had. So Jeffrey Skilling and Kenneth Lay, they were at the head of the company at that time. So Kenneth Lay and Jeffrey Skilling exhibited a complex mix of personality traits that fostered Enron's innovative but ultimately toxic and fraudulent culture. So I just researched, what does the profile look like of leaders like this? And this is why I'm talking about this today. This is the importance of leadership. Lower level leadership, middle management leadership, senior executive leadership, it doesn't matter. We need to prepare people for what's coming. So their psychological profiles, though not formally diagnosed, suggest a high degree of narcissism, lack of empathy, a lot of ambition, and a profound inability to take responsibility for their actions. So we do see a little bit of the narcissism in a lot of the important positions, a lot of the high-level positions. So therefore, it's really also important to assess people and see who they are and what they're made of, because that incredible energy and ambition could be a good thing, but it depends on what backs it up. Like a lack of empathy, they will do whatever they want. Someone with a lack of empathy will not care for another person's pension fund. That is, to me, quite a sensitive point. I don't know, like that's what you have to live on. I feel quite, serious about that specific topic. But a lot of you will probably agree that these type of traits should not be combined with the leadership components. Let's look at Uber. I'm just keeping an eye on the time. I don't want to rush, and I also don't want to go over the time. So you will not believe this. I actually did not know this. So Uber, under the early years, under Travis Kalanick. So I didn't know that it started off like that. When I got to know Uber, I just thought it was brilliant and fantastic because I was able to use it in South Africa. Firstly, I didn't believe this technology. Like 3 hours before my flight, I'm going to call an Uber and it's just going to arrive. It was something to get used to. And then I was in the UK at one point. I just literally got an Uber from my phone, and I'm from South Africa. It was just amazing. So, but in the early years under Travis Kalanick, things did not go so well. So aggressive, unstructured leadership fostered a toxic culture, legal issues, and public scandals. So while the company grew rapidly, poor leadership damaged the reputation and necessitated major organizational restructuring. So I don't know if you knew this, but this to me was quite interesting. I had absolutely no idea, but such a great concept and idea grows very quickly. But then if you have the wrong type of person there, it can go downhill so quickly. So here is a picture of Travis. I know I got quite a blurry picture, but I wanted one that's got white background. So all of them look sort of similar, but quite an attractive looking guy. And so Travis's psychological profile, as inferred from his public behavior and leadership at Uber, suggests a personality defined by intense drive, competitiveness, assertiveness, and a win-at-all-cost mentality. So once again, very ambitious and driven, and there's nothing wrong with that. But when that lacks the empathy, lacks the soft skills. Remember, when you assess a leader or a manager, we look at the emotional intelligence component. You look at the interaction with other people. So I read a thing the other day that said leadership is not being the boss of other people. It's actually being able to influence and look after them. I kind of liked it because I think we confuse it. We think that it means that I'm the boss, you do what I say. leadership, true leadership, is to influence people and lead by an example and show that empathy and care, because that softer word I've seen now in my life, the softer word, and I don't mean soft as in weak, a soft, or shall I rather say a kind word, an uplifting word goes way further than a harsh, critical type of word. So test it, do a little bit of testing on your own. And when you address something with someone, in informal, an example, it doesn't matter. If you use a soft word versus a harsh word, you get so much more out of people. Look at yourself as well. It depends on the type of words people use with you. If someone is aggressive or attacking, you immediately defend. You don't get anywhere. So keep an eye on this. And then Travis exhibited traits often associated with an autocratic leadership style and has been described as having narcissistic tendencies, lacking empathy. It's interesting that the narcissism pops up so much everywhere. Be aware as well that today, if you do a little bit of research on it, you will see that the selfishness is quite a trending trait at the moment. It is everywhere, and there's more of it. Keep an eye on it. And if you want to know whether yourself has got some of that, and remember, you can have selfish traits. It doesn't make you a narcissist. Lack of empathy and lack of absolute care of other people causes empathy. A lot of people are just self-absorbed. They just think about themselves a lot. They do things for them. That doesn't make them narcissistic. It just makes them selfish. Keep an eye on your own behavior. Keep an eye on yourself. Just be open. Be open to feedback and see how many times you consider other people. And if you think, you know what, I actually talk about myself a lot quite often. I refer to myself quite a bit. If someone tells me something, I talk back to them with relation to myself. Keep an eye on it. You can change it. There's nothing wrong with you. You can change it. It's just a neural pathway. But keep an eye on it, because the selfishness is quite rampant nowadays. So now those were my most important poor leadership examples, and there were so many more. If I had more time, I would have shown you all of them. It's so interesting. And you know, a lot of people think that they're really pretty great. But you know, without the softer skills, the emotional maturity and emotional intelligence, you're not that great. You're 50-50. So anyway, let's look at why develop junior leadership. So the most crucial reasons for developing and training junior management is to build foundational leadership skills. I think it's dangerous when someone goes from nothing to very, very senior management. That gap is a problem. You need to learn how to be the gopher, run around with the nonsense, do the faxing and the filing. I know technology is doing it for us now, but still, someone needs to organize it on the computer. Someone needs to do the gophing, the admin, the absolute mundane tasks. You need to start like that and build it up before you enter junior, middle, and then senior management. I think when you jump, that gap is very, very dangerous. So firstly, building foundational leadership skills, so equipping them with the basic management, communication, and problem-solving abilities to lead teams effectively. Communication is also underestimated. Very good, clear communication in terms of what someone needs from you and what you need from them. It's underestimated. A lot of misinterpretations and assumptions happens when there's a lack of that. The other problem is people may think that they're good with it. You may not be as good as you think you are. The listening and the communication, very, very important. And secondly, enhancing decision-making capabilities, preparing them to make informed, timely, responsible decisions. Don't be scared of making decisions. This is the other downfall of people. When we test them, they come out low on the accountability or avoiding of decisions. It's because they're worried they're going to get into trouble. You have to set your ego aside. Firstly, become aware that the ego is in your way. And then become mature enough to say that if I make a mistake, I'll own it. It's not the end of the world. You own it, move on. Doesn't matter what people think of you. It doesn't matter. You really need to build your ego. The ego is the one that stands in the way. Ensuring alignment with organizational goals. This is very important because don't think that my greatness lies within me. You need to know what is that you're doing. So helping people to understand the company's strategy, the culture, and expectations in early career development. So where are we going to? What is it that you need? Why is the senior managers, why do they seem so uptight? Because they've got a lot on their minds. They've got organizational goals and achievements on their mind. See the bigger picture. And then number 4, increasing engagement and retention. Showing investment in their growth fosters loyalty and motivation. Forget about yourself also for a while and think about the people that's in your team. People like to be acknowledged and to be heard and know that they are important and that they have a role to play. And this is also how we now change the communication. Don't just communicate. Learn how to influence by motivating, being persuasive and influential. Choose your words correctly. And then creating a talent pipeline, developing future leaders to fulfill middle and senior management positions, ensuring long-term organizational continuity. So you do want to prepare those younger leaders for the next level and then the next level. And even if your levels are not so clearly defined because you may be a small organization, it may still overlap, whatever, it doesn't matter. You want to climb steadily and prepare and add responsibilities and add things to that role until you grow to the next level. And then lastly, improving team performance. Trained junior managers can guide their teams more effectively, boosting productivity and morale. If they can get the bigger picture and how the entire organization comes together. So I do lots of skills audits in the public sector and the private sector. And usually where the pap val op die grond, how do I say that in English, where the pawpaw hits the fan, is because the leaders or the managers on which level ever they are don't influence and connect with the guys below. Show them that you will help them, empower them, guide them, but also show them that you are firm. You will discipline if that needs to be there. But that fairness, the fairness and consistency, let me tell you, those two things goes a very, very long way for people to build recognize the credibility in their management teams. That is one thing that's often missing. So let's look at why develop middle managers. So middle managers are developed to bridge strategy and execution. So this is where you now take it to the next level. You want to manage the steps from that operational part to reaching the strategy. So this is a lot where in the government departments it falls flat because the steps to execute, we know what the strategy is, but the steps to execute it, we don't know what that is. We don't know what we're supposed to do, but also the management of that, the consequence of not doing it is not managed well. And you can bridge that easily. So they translate, your middle managers translate organizational goals into actionable plans, leading teams effectively, drive performance, and ensure alignment between senior leadership and frontline employees. Once again, just a lot of communication and keeping people to task. You have to do consequence management. But then again, you don't want to have too much consequence management. You want to do the whole full circle. You want to show, drive, influence, help people, but also manage the consequence. Developing them enhances decision-making, problem-solving, people management, and change leadership, creating a strong pipeline for future senior leaders while boosting overall organizational efficiency and engagement. So I'm going to say you have to be involved everywhere, but you want to manage the people in the team so that they do it. That is like managing puppets on a string. I don't know if it's the greatest example, but you don't necessarily do some of the work yourself. You manage the puppets on the string that's supposed to execute. You want to do certain things yourself, yes, but you get other people to do it and do it effectively, and you show them how to do it through communication, through feedback, follow up, but also giving those people the empowerment and the accountability to run with it on their own. But you also need to make sure that you follow up if things are not done. That's a big, big job. All right, and then why develop senior and executive managers? So I like to focus on the psychology behind the development of executives, because that focuses on the cognitive, emotional, and social factors that influence leadership effectiveness. So let's look at self-awareness and emotional intelligence. The self-awareness counts actually on all the levels. Self-awareness is the key to most things. So understanding your own strengths, your weaknesses, triggers, and the impact on others helps executives lead authentically and manage complex interpersonal dynamics. If you're not aware of your own stuff, how are you going to be aware of other people's needs and what it is that they're going through? You need to be aware of your own thinking. Where are my strengths? What am I aware of that is my weaknesses? Well, can I put my ego aside and say, I know I tend to not delegate and just take it all on myself, or I tend to really not follow up and follow through. Be aware of your own triggers, and then you will also be able to influence the interpersonal dynamics of the larger group. And then decision making under uncertainty. This is a big thing, because the higher you go on the leadership scale, the more uncertain it will get. So if you look at how leaders develop, if you look at your Elon Musks, those guys that's right at the top there, they deal with massive amounts of uncertainty and ambiguity. And these executives face high stakes, ambiguous situations. Psychological development enhances the critical thinking, judgment, and risk tolerance. So when you get to these ambiguous situations, maybe your more narcissistic, lacking in empathy type of leaders will run without a care in the world, which is dangerous. But a good leader that's aware of everything will be able to make decisions that's ethical, that's honest, and they will also pull their people in to help them. So this is a big thing to learn how to perform when you are up there. But that facing uncertainty is a very difficult thing to do. Okay, then motivation and values alignment. So awareness of personal and organizational values drive purpose, commitment, and ethical leadership. You need to know what your values, what are you doing? What is it that you want to present to the world? And then resilience and stress management, developing coping strategies for pressure, setbacks, rapid change, supports sustained high performance. So, of course, a person on that level needs to be very good with their resilience in their stress management, but they must also be aware of what the employee goes through and what is their management style, what does their leadership style look like, sound like, and be aware of what the people can do and do they have everything what they need to be able to perform. But the stress management on that level is so critical. And then social cognition and influence. So executives must navigate complex networks, motivate diverse teams, and manage stakeholders. Psychological insight strengthens persuasion, negotiation, and team dynamics. So this is such one of those, it sounds like a vague term, like what is social cognition and how do you influence, because it's an intangible thing. So this is where that maturity comes in, and your own self-awareness will get you to manage this better. And then last one, growth mindset and learning agility. So executives who embrace continuous learning adapt better to change and foster innovation. So this is the reason why you want to develop senior and executive managers. And I'm going to say it again. I do think that jumping from a normal position to executive, I think that's dangerous. Well, to any position, you need to have the steps in between. So thank you for joining us on the introduction of these leadership programs. Here you will see our link to the HR Talk course box. You can go do the training online, but you can also contact us if you want face-to-face group type of trainings or online types of trainings that's not like this, but more in a webinar group type of setting. I'm going to end the show. I'm just going to do that because I want to see if anyone has got questions. Okay. So that's that. Everyone was just saying good morning. There's no questions yet. But please ask me some questions if there's anything that you want to know about the different levels of the leadership and the way that you can train in this. And then we will deal with that. So anyone who wants to, I just want to see if I am on the only chat box button. Okay, can you not see the link? Just want to see if I can I'm going to put this in the chat box as well. Let me copy and paste the link. If you can't see it anymore, I'm going to copy and paste this link in the chat box. There you go. And I'm also going to put my email address in the chat box. If anyone wants to contact us for any training suggestions, because you can adjust and adapt. You can do webinar, you can do face-to-face, you can do group, you can do all sorts of things. But go and check out the HR Talk portal because it's fantastic. There's all sorts of things on there and you can get your certificate. It's just nice. So anyone who's got any questions on difficult management or okay, let's see, please recommend ways to help each stage of the management progress. So I would start with things like a personal type of an assessment, personality or emotional intelligence, so that you can become aware, self-aware, emotionally self-aware. And then if you can start becoming aware of what does every leadership level look like. And it could look differently in different organizations. Don't think there's like only one type in the world. It depends on where you are with who you are, but there are generic skills you can take from a small company to a bigger company if you change jobs, things like that. So there are skills that's generic, but start with the emotional self-awareness that you can determine and see, who am I? What do I tend to do? Then only can you help other people. Awareness is your biggest answer, but it goes to emotional intelligence. So that's how you would address it, is becoming aware and also determine who you are. Because sometimes we want to develop ourselves or other people. They don't want to be managers or leaders. They want to be professionals and specialists. So determine that as well. It doesn't mean that the person is useless or not ambitious or bad. Management or leadership, it's a unique thing that someone would like to do or want to do. So actually, as a matter of fact, that would be the ways that I would start, is determine what do I want to do. So that career guidance and then the insight into my softer skills, my personality, determine where I would be the best and then develop from there. And identify your young talent. If you are in such a position, it would be great if you can look at your younger people and identify, but put them through tests first. Don't invest, and then that's the person did it because they thought there's going to be more money. A lot of people do promotional things because they think there's going to be more money, but they forget about the responsibility. So just keep that in mind. I think I'm only going to see you guys next year again, because I think this is our last webinar session for this year. But in the next year, we would like to try and do some stress again and emotional intelligence. So keep an eye on your emails for the invites to the webinars. And if you want to see webinars directly, if you want something customized, just contact us. We can do something sooner and help you with that. But anyway, I hope to see you in the next sessions. It was great having you here, and all my clients, my familiar faces. Enjoy your day, and we'll chat again. And thank you for joining. Thank you, everyone.